Hello and welcome to another episode of Pixel Perspective Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Adrian, alongside my friend and co-host, JJ. What's up, JJ?
What's up, man? Just hanging out. It's Monday night, September 26th. We're just chilling, about to do a Halloween episode a month early, but we kind of have to. So
it's yeah. Even though we're a month early, I'm already kind of in that Halloween spirit. Has it hit you yet?
I don't really get a Halloween spirit. I went to Renfest last week and I dressed up, so that's about the closest.
What's that?
I have heard of that. Renaissance Festival.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my cousin got married there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's cool. An interesting way to have a wedding. That's memorable.
Yeah, it was neat.
Yeah,
it was cool.
So, are you feeling the temperature changes there yet? Since it's now officially fall?
Yeah, it's been getting chilly. The days still get up to mid 70s and occasionally 80. But the nights especially are 50s, 60s, that kind of thing. Which I personally love. Give me winter all year round. I love the cold weather. Brian, I know you feel me in the chat. Because F the heat, it's the worst ever. Just saying.
So fall is the best season, followed by spring, and then winter and summer. They're whatever, as far as I'm concerned. I just like the temperate, moderate temperatures. How about that? It's summer around here is too hot. Winters around here is too cold. So I like the in between.
I agree with you. I think fall is a perfect season because the temperatures are chilly but not freezing cold. And I would much rather be freezing cold than burning hot. Because you can always put on more layers, but you can't take off more stuff.
I like going outside though, and if it's too cold, I don't. Even no matter how much I bundle up, it's still going to restrict what I can't.
See, that's where you and I differ. I don't like going outside. So unless it's open the door because I have a package delivery or something.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Well, I enjoy being outside. In fact, I spent my whole weekend outside. We went to Fright Fest at Frontier City. It's a local theme park we got here in Oklahoma City. And they had people dressed up in costumes and everything, and they had decorations up. They have haunted houses and stuff there. We didn't do any of the haunted houses because they're it's $30 to get into a haunted house per person, and it doesn't really work out for us. But everything else was still cool. We had a good time. And and then yesterday we went to a nature trail and started walking around with the kids, or I did, and went bike riding and stuff like that. Man, I'm enjoying this weather. Just it's hitting me. And I'm starting to get the fall smell, and everything's starting to turn for me. So I'm really starting to get into that Halloween spirit, I guess. So I'm excited for this.
Well, that's good. Dang. Well, Winani says it's 85 still, and he's down south in Texas. So yikes, that sucks because I know you're not a fan of the heat as well. And then Detway
still
says,
as in right now or today?
Yeah, he says it's 85 here still.
Today got up to about that, I think, maybe a little bit warmer. Yeah, it's still getting hot, pretty hot during the day, but 50 in the evenings.
It was 94 today. Yikes! No thanks.
Yeah, that's too hot.
Nope. F that noise. And Detway says he loves fall, and is this the best fall season in games? This is a pretty damn jam-packed season. I have been, when we get into what we've been playing, I have been flying through my list to try and make sure that I have enough time left in the year to play some more games that came out this year. Because I want to make sure that I have a solid top 5 of 2022 for next year. Because good Lord, there's just so much stuff, and a lot of it is jam-packed into the latter half of this year. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
So what have you been playing over the past month?
Oh man. So I am down to 3 games left on my list for the year. And I have just like, I was really like, last episode, I think I had 5 or 6 left, and I was like really getting worried because I was like, these games are so long. I don't know if I'm going to make it.
Especially
This
when
is
you had
crazy.
Disgaea on that list.
Right. I finished Disgaea in about 50 hours.
Not bad.
So I did that. There's a ton of extra side content that you can do. I think that's why it has the reputation of being super long, because there is so much side stuff that you can do. It's after the main story is done, which that's all I did. I finished the main story. I called it good. But there is so much extra stuff that you can do. Like there's hundreds of levels you can get, and I think I finished at like 90, something like that. And I did grind quite a bit in that game too. But I enjoyed it quite a bit more than I was expecting to, because I was like, I was worried about A, the cheesiness, and B, the like, I like grindy games, but there comes a point where I'm like, all right, let's move it along.
Right.
It really never got to that point for me. And the cheesiness was there, but the fact that I think I was expecting it helped to not like make it as like to where I was just turned off by it.
Yeah.
It was just goofy as hell, but it was fun. It was entertaining. And I had a good time with it. I can't wait to play the next one at some point. I believe there is a sequel to Disgaea 1. I don't think it's Disgaea 2. I think it's called something else, but I have to double check that.
D2.
I think you're right. Yeah.
It came out on the PlayStation 3.
Which is different from Disgaea 2, which is
Yes.
super confusing. I don't know why they did that, but hey, Japan. Anyways, so I finished that, Disgaea. Then I also, on my list, finished Saga Frontier for the first time ever. And not only finished, but got the platinum on the PS4 remaster. And I thought I was going to get burnt out because the like it's such a repetitive game. You have 7 original protagonists, and they added the new one in, which makes it the 8. And each one has their own story, but they're all exploring the same world. So the same side quests are available in most of the games. So you're playing it, and you're kind of like, you're like, all right, well, I already did all these in the last game that I just played. Crap, I got to do them again. So you're doing the side quests over and over again if you want to. The good thing is, in the original game, they didn't do this, but in the remaster, which I highly recommend if you're curious about this game or the Saga series in general, they made it to where when you play through one character's game, the stats and levels and everything you that you earned in that playthrough on any characters that you recruit will carry over into the next one that you do. So let's say you recruit like 2 or 3 characters for your first playthrough, level them up a bunch, they become super powerful. And the second character that you choose to play through the game with, if you recruit those characters again, they're going to be like way over leveled, and so you're going to have a much easier time getting through that. And it really, really helped. The only thing that made it take longer than it would have originally was just the fact that I was going for the platinum, because there was a bunch of grindy extra stuff to do. But it really still wasn't even that bad. I think maybe 40 hours total for everything to do. And that was like, a lot of it was grinding just because you had to be strong enough to do stuff. And I like, when I was growing up, I really liked the game, and I liked the concept, because I'm a big fan of any game that has like multiple scenarios that are taking place at the same time, like Final Fantasy VI, when the party splits up into 3, and you take 3 pathways, and you play each separate one with Mog, one with Terra, one with Sabin, and the other one with Locke. I always thought that was really cool. Then you got Suikoden 3, where you have the Trinity Sight system, which eventually turns into another character that joins you, and like you play as from their point of view. And I just think that's so neat. Wild Arms does it at the beginning of the game as well, which I think is cool. And so that's kind of what the whole game is. And so I loved that growing up as a kid. But the problem was, when you would finish one game, it got exhausting, because you'd just be like, all right, I can do another one. I don't want to have to do everything over again. Crap. Like, and it's not like they take long. Like, you can, some of the games, like, an hour or 2 to beat if you really, really rush. It's not bad, but at the same time, it does get just a little, it taxes you a bit. So I was really happy to have the stuff that carried over this time, and I really, really enjoyed that. It was great. And I had a really good time. I wouldn't recommend platinuming it for everybody, but if you're curious about the game, the art is so beautiful. I really, really love the art style and the character designs in that game. It's absolutely gorgeous. So it's worth checking out if you see it on sale. For sure. Give it a shot. I've also been playing Detway. You will be happy to know that I have finally started playing Final Fantasy IV on the Game Boy Advance. I have heard tale that this is a tough version because there are like glitches that make the game harder, like enemies getting more attacks than they should, encounter rate being super high, just some unfair issues with it. I'm probably halfway through the game, and it's really easy. But that's me saying that, and I grind like crazy in that game because I know I've beaten that game more than it's probably the game that I've beaten more than any other. Maybe Secret of Mana is up there too. Those two games I've beaten more than any other game. And Final Fantasy IV, I know like the back of my hand, so I will literally like anytime I play it, I'm like, all right, this part's coming up. I got to be a little bit higher level, and I will make sure that my HP totals and my levels are. I make sure I have the right spells, all for this stuff, and then I blow through everything. So it really hasn't been a challenge for me like at all so far. I have noticed though, yes, the encounter rate is definitely higher, and that there are some occasions where I'm like, am I going to get to go now? Like, what the hell? So there are some things in there. I could see that just playing through casually, absolutely tougher for sure. But I because I grind so much, it doesn't really matter to me. But I love that game so much, I would still do it regardless. And then I started over the weekend Suikoden 5, which that game has a really long intro. Oh my god. It is insane. The cool thing is I have like my own like I have an actual guide, not a book. I have a person who knows the game like I know Final Fantasy IV basically. Ryan, who we had on Frozen North several times from the Suikoden revival movement. Good friend of mine, talk to him on Twitter still all the time. Him and I have been going back and forth. He's given me tips and hints and everything. He actually wrote one of the guides that's up on GameFAQs for the game and stuff. And so he knows everything about it. And he's like kind of coaching me and like telling me which characters to use and all this stuff. And I haven't really gotten to any points where I'm like really choosing my party or like recruiting and stuff. I'm still pretty early on. But I just love the way that they design that world and the diversity in the characters, and it's just wonderful. I love playing Suikoden again, especially since this is obviously it's a PS2 game, so it's older, but it's new to me because I have not played it yet. And having played 4 last year, which 4 in Tactics, which most people say 4 is the weakest in the series. I played it and I really liked it. So I was like, well, shoot, if they say that's the weakest, then hell yeah, I'm gonna love 5, and I'm enjoying the hell out of it so far. Like I said, it is slow to start, but man, it's I couldn't be happier just playing it and just having such a good time getting to know these characters in this world again. It's been a blast. So yeah, and a little bit of Splatoon 3, which Team Gear we won again, even though Adrian didn't tell me which team to pick. I went ahead and chose Team Gear.
The one that Katie chose. Yeah.
Man.
Well, I mean, why would you choose anything else? The options were gear, like toys, basically. If you're trapped on an island, what would you bring? Would you bring gear, food, or like
fun
things? Yeah.
There were a lot of people who picked fun. Gear? There was like several, like when you're walking around the lobby or whatever, the square. There's a bunch of like artwork of people saying stuff like, I chose fun because I like to have fun and that kind of stuff. And, whatever. I made a little billboard for my character. So if you see walking around in the Splatoon square, a little box that just says, Zelda just matter. That's me. So there you have it.
That definitely sounds like that definitely sounds like a thing you would make.
Yep.
On the note of Suikoden, you pretty pumped up about the announcement of the new Suikoden 1 and 2 revival?
Ryan was like super excited. He was like, with his, we've been clamoring for this for so long because the big thing is like it's great that it's coming to these new consoles, but the big one was bringing it to PC because obviously PC is something that's timeless. It's never gonna go away. It's never gonna get outdated. That kind of thing. It's always gonna be there. People upgrade their PCs, but it's still the same software that's
Yeah,
there. So it's so that was the big one, and it was really really cool to see that. And the new visuals look wonderful.
they do.
I've seen some comparisons, and it's just I think it's fantastic. If you have not played the Suikoden series, 1 and 2 are absolutely wonderful games. 2 is spectacular. They're like they're JRPGs for people who like their JRPGs a little more serious and a little more grounded. They're not as like power of friendship kind of thing. They're more like, oh my gosh, war leads to some pretty dire consequences, and
They're
brother
mature.
against brother, that kind of yeah. It's excellent. The whole series is for sure.
I was impressed with the visuals. The character designs and stuff didn't really get anything done to them or much at all, but
Yeah,
the
right.
environments I think is where it really matters. And the environments that I saw, even in the battle screens, make a huge difference on the impact of the 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 scene.
Yes.
And I'm excited to play those for sure.
I no, I agree with you on the character design. I don't know what it is because they did the same thing with the pixel remasters for Final Fantasy. I don't know what it is with these like pastel looking like character model or portraits that they're doing for these games. I just don't. It doesn't really appeal to me that much. I prefer the originals on a lot of those.
So you're talking
Yeah.
about like the little cartoon portrait that they would put up when you're speaking, or a
Yes.
character is speaking. I agree
Yeah.
with you. I don't see a reason. And when they do this with a lot of remasters, they'll have a new artist come in and redraw those when it really doesn't need to happen. Like the
Right.
drawings, the original drawings in most cases are the better drawings anyway. So why not
Yeah.
reuse those?
Those
I'm
are
sure
the.
they've
It
got
just
the
it makes no sense. Environments, backgrounds, the visuals, like the way they made like water look and the mountain environments and stuff like that. It's beautiful. But
yeah.
then just I don't know why you felt the need to update the portraits. That just doesn't.
The
I just
only
don't
thing
get
I
it.
can think of is when those portraits were made, they were really small, made for a small screen. And when you try to blow those up, they're going to get really heavily pixelated and
Sure.
not look very good. My assumption is that is the reason why. And uh and if they'd lost the original portraits somewhere, then you can't really do that. But I don't
Yeah.
know. Part of me, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt most of the time and say that's the reason, but I don't know.
I feel like there are ways around that still. Even so, like to me, what they did looks like it was a conscious decision. They were like, we have to make it
Mm-hmm.
look more modern, and I don't know.
I mean,
Uh,
even if they got somebody in to trace around the lines and basically
right.
recreate the drawing that was already made, I think that could work just fine.
Yeah, you should have volunteered, but you
I
didn't.
would.
So, um, Brian says, yes, Zelda just met her. Just meld her. All right, fair enough. Yes, he has played both, and he says they are the Gundam of JRPGs. I think it's a very good way to put it because Gundam are, it's an anime, but it's very, very serious and very much like it makes you think. It's very philosophical and deals a lot with like war consequences, PTSD, just a lot of just it's so good. So yes, play Suikoden if you want to experience a JRPG without the goofiness that normally comes along with those games.
Yeah.
Detway says he played the first. If you like the first was like okay. So I, I I don't know how many people know this, but the first game wasn't actually the game they wanted to make. It's great. Don't get me wrong. It's a wonderful game, but the main developers Murayama, he developer Murayama, he was basically like, I really want to make this game, and he was talking about Suikoden 2 at the time. He's like, but I want to make sure that when I make it, that it's done right. So instead of making the game he actually wanted to make to start with, which was Suikoden 2, he made Suikoden 1 as a kind of a trial run. And so that was his way of being like, all right, this way we can anticipate things are going to go wrong, things that we need to watch out for, things that work, things that don't work, that kind of thing. And so it was kind of a trial run before what he really wanted to create, which was Suikoden 2, and it shows. it is a massive jump in storytelling and just world building, and it's a beautiful, beautiful game. And if you had any, like if you like the first one at all, you'll love the second one for sure. And you don't have to have played one to enjoy the other. They all take place in the same world, and there are some like things that connect them, but it's very loose and very like inconsequential for the most part. So don't think that you have to play them in order or anything like that. If you just are really curious about the series and you've only heard about two and that's the one you want to play, go for it, because you'll love it and you'll want to play the other ones, which is great anyway. But yeah, so for sure. He also says, I'm worried about the sprites on Tactics Ogre. Give me the pixels. I agree. Yeah, it looks like they're probably going to do the same thing on that. Though I don't have any experience with the original Tactics Ogre, so I don't know. We'll see what happens. So yeah. Adrian, what have you been playing?
Man, my Steam Deck, as that's all I've been playing. Anything and everything I can test on that thing, I have been. I haven't really even touched any of my consoles or my Switch at all since I got it, and it's been pretty cool. So like I've tested a crap ton of games. I borrowed my brother-in-law's library. He has a massive library of Steam games, and he buys all the new releases that he's interested in on Steam because he's primarily PC gamer. So
yeah,
it's been cool to go through and test out a lot of games. Like I'm testing Cyberpunk right now, and it plays beautifully. I'm impressed with how well that game plays, and it's actually got me interested in enough in it that I think I'm gonna keep playing it. I didn't really click with me the first time I played it with on the PS5 because that's back when it was having all of its issues, graphical issues and stuff. It just didn't look very good and didn't feel very good. It felt stiff. I feel like some of that has been ironed out a little bit, and it's a little bit better to play.
Yeah.
I've also been playing. Well, I played through Resident Evil 2 Remake again. I played through Leon's scenario this time. The first time I played through Claire's, but I just downloaded it to test it and see what it looks like and how it plays, and I couldn't put it down. And I beat it within a few days. It was just such a fun game to play, and it feels so good on that Steam Deck. Like I can't speak highly enough about the controls on the deck and how comfortable it is to play. Same thing with Doom. I've been playing Doom as well. First person shooters typically don't play very well for me on a handheld console, Switch particularly. I can't play them. It just doesn't feel good, but it plays phenomenally on the Steam Deck. So I've been playing that. I don't know how far I am into that, but I've been playing that in between other games. Another one I've been playing quite a bit, I'm probably about 10 hours into it, is Fire Emblem Path of Radiance. So I downloaded a GameCube emulator on there, and I've been testing a lot of games on that.
Why don't you just buy the physical disc?
Because I'd rather play it on the disc. I do have the disc. And
do you? Okay. I was gonna say it's crazy expensive.
That's like one of the most expensive games on the GameCube right now. Yeah.
I got it for $15.
Oh, you lucky dog.
I still have the price tag on it. Yeah.
I do want to. I still need Radiant Dawn, and I need
I have that too.
The games.
Yeah.
Do you? What about the Game Boy Advance ones? Do you have those?
I have the Sacred Stones.
Mm-hmm. I think the other one's just called Fire Emblem. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So I don't have either one of those. So I need those three, and then I'll have all of the Fire Emblem games that were released in North America, at least.
You got all the 3DS ones?
Not all the variants. I have one from each version that came, or what each iteration, I should say. But yeah, Path of Radiance is really good. I'm surprised. Like I jumped into it. I was like, I've always wanted to play this game. Now I've got the Steam Deck. It fits my play style better. I'm gonna go ahead and jump into it and see what I think. And dude, I got hooked immediately, and I haven't really been able to put it down. I only stopped playing it temporarily to try out some other things. But yeah, that's been kind of the main one that I'm sticking with. I also played Xeno Saga. I started on that a little bit on the deck as well. I played through Xeno Saga back when it came out, and I played about halfway through Xeno Saga 2, and I lost interest in 2 pretty quickly. And I've always
Two
wanted
people
to go
say is the
back.
weakest entry. I enjoyed it, but yeah, people say two is the weakest entry of the
That's
three.
what I hear, and I hear
Yeah,
3 is really great as
three's
well.
excellent. Yeah.
I don't know if you've been listening to the oh, what are those guys called?
Resident Arc. I was just gonna bring that up. Yeah, I haven't been listening to. I want to wait till it's all out. But yeah, I did see that they are covering Xeno Saga episode 1.
They are, and in the
Yep.
first episode, they talk about what happened and why Xeno Saga 2 is the weakest one.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize this. The creator of the Xeno Saga series, what's his name? Do you remember? Same guy who did
Uh,
Xenogears.
is it? Oh God, Tetsuya Takahashi.
That yes,
Is that right?
yes, yeah. So again, yeah, I knew you would know. I knew you would know. The guy, he had huge ambitions for Xenosaga, much like
Oh,
Xenogears.
yeah.
And they talk about how if he was able to make the game that he wanted to make, it would have taken, upwards of 20 years, to make
Easily.
this game.
Yeah.
So what happened was when he made Xenogears, I guess Bandai, they had to put a lot of restrictions on him because his visions are a little bit, they're too far-fetched,
Grandiose. Yeah.
Yes, great word for it. So he ended up stepping down from Xenosaga 2, and whole new group of people took it over, and there's a huge disconnect between the first and second game, and that was the biggest thing that I noticed when I played Xenosaga 2, and I just lost interest in it. A lot of it turned into more of a stereotypical generic type JRPG with the second one, and that's not what I loved about the first game. The first one was very like mature, and I mean, they still had its goofy moments like they all do, but
it's
it
a lot
had
more
a lot going
philosophical.
for it. Yeah, there's a lot more story to follow there and a lot more to dig into. So after that happened, he came back for 3, and I don't remember the reasons why he came back for 3, but that's why 3 is
Yeah, I can't wait to watch it. They always do such an amazing job covering those games.
I love
it's
listening to them.
wonderful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they did Metal Gear Solid last on the last one, and that was a great listen to.
Yeah, I didn't listen to that because I wasn't crazy about Metal Gear Solid.
Oh, you're the only one.
I know.
You're the only one.
I know I'm up there. I don't know. I think I played it too late is the problem.
Most likely
because I only played the first game like within the last like year or two. So
yeah, I don't know. I would like to go back and try it again, see if it holds up. But after listening to them talk about it, it was bringing back all those memories. I was like, I remember that. I remember that. There's not very many games that I can remember every little thing that happens in it. Metal Gear Solid is definitely one of those for me.
cool.
Last game I've been playing quite a bit is a game called Vampire Survivors, and have you heard of this one?
I've heard that's actually really fun. Yeah,
it's a fantastic game. I bought into the hype. There was a lot of talk around it.
Yeah.
It's now a $5 game, but it was a $3 game on Steam, and it is like one of the best $3 games, now $5, still worth every bit of $5 game that I've ever played. It's massively addictive. It's super simplistic and cheesy looking. Like you could tell that it was made by just a few people or a small team.
I think Asmongold is who I saw playing it. He was kind of like meh at first, and then he just kept playing and kept playing and kept playing and wouldn't stop, and was like, "Oh, I didn't realize how long I've been playing this for." Yeah,
it's crazy. Like the UI is super cheesy. It's like, I don't know. It doesn't look like a game that should be as fun as it is. But you play it's a sprite based game, and it's overhead view, and it's like
a bullet hell game,
kind of, but it's roguelike bullet hell. So you start off with just a whip, with the first character that you choose. You start off with just a whip, and you're killing stuff and leveling your character up, and every time you level up, you gain a new ability that you can choose, or you upgrade a current ability that you have, and you just get stronger and stronger. And the goal is just to survive as long as you can while still upgrading your character. And then when you die, you get money throughout that the course of that round, you get money that you can use to upgrade your character to start the new one. So you go back in fresh, but you're slightly stronger than you were the previous times.
Yeah.
So it's definitely, it's got this repetitive gameplay element that keeps you coming back. It's a lot of fun. It's super simple. Highly recommend it, especially for at that price point. I have a feeling this game is going to kick off really big and probably hit consoles and stuff as well. It's that good. So
we got a handful of comments here. Let's see. Wanani says he's also replaying Cyberpunk. His second playthrough, played a year ago, and he says it's improved very much since then. And he's playing on PC as well, so same version you are. Deadway says he needs to revisit CP Cyberpunk. Yes, I won't go back to it. I platinumed it when it was terrible. I really didn't like. I did a whole review on it on the channel. I didn't run into that many issues, but I definitely understand the gripes that people had because, man, remembering how hyped that game was when it first came out, because from the creators of The Witcher, like, it was like, this is going to be amazing, and then it came out, it's like, this is not amazing. So yeah, but it's I'm glad that they were able to recover and pull a No Man's Sky, as it were. And Wunani also says watch Edge Runners on Netflix, the best anime he's seen in years.
I need to watch.
I think that's the Cyberpunk one. Yeah, I have it in my queue. I haven't watched it yet, but I do want to check it out because it looks pretty good. Deadway says he paid $60. I think he's referring to Fire Emblem Path of Radiance when we were talking about that.
I think he's referring to Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk, when it I'm guessing when it, because it dropped in price so fast because when it was it was poorly received or whatever.
Yeah. I paid full price for that. I got it when it first came out as well.
I think we all did. We all got burned on that one.
And then Unani says he has 30 hours on Vampire Survivors as well. That's a pseudo roguelike. So yeah, he's been playing that too. I think I remember you mentioning that too to me. Yeah, I honestly, I think it looks neat, but I don't really, roguelikes in general aren't really my cup of tea.
Oh, I love them, man. They're so fun.
If it's not something that I can just sink my teeth into and like take my time and play, and that game just seems like I would get frustrated really fast. And so I was just like, it's just not for me. But it looks really cool. And I know a lot of people have been having a lot of fun with it. So yeah, man, it's great.
Two of my favorites, Rogue Legacy and now I can't think of it.
See, he knows me. He says roguelikes are anti-JJ games. Yep, he knows me too well.
I can see that. The Spelunky. I love Spelunky. It's a great game. But yeah.
Hades, I've not played Hades either. No. But I have heard that it is amazing. Yes.
Hades is great.
Yeah.
Hades, though, I think my problem with Hades is that it doesn't let me upgrade fast enough. I've got to a point in that game where I felt like I was running through the same stuff over and over again, and I wasn't feeling any real progression. So I don't know if I'm doing something wrong and not acquiring the proper materials that I need to make the next run better. But yeah, I reached kind of a dead point in that game, and I never was able to progress past that point. I should go back and try again, but I don't know. I haven't had too many other things to play, I guess.
Hades nuts got better things to do. Nailed it. All right. So next, you want to get into our topic?
I do. And so my idea for this topic, and I want to see how it differs from yours, because we were talking about this a little bit before the show. I went into this thinking that, well, actually, let me say what the topic is generally. The topic is scary moments in games that weren't intended to be scary. So not horror-based games. We listed out a few games that maybe had something scary in it, or maybe the way I thought about it is something that affected me and made me scared of an element within the game or something for whatever reason. And I have several reasons you'll see when I get into my list why it was scary to me. And they may not have been intended to be scary whatsoever, but it just hit me in a way that did scare me. So what about you? Is that how you took it?
That is not how I took it, because that's never happened to me before. If I'm playing a non-horror game, I've never been scared that I can remember. Maybe it's happened, but nothing that was ever meaningful enough to make me go like, oh yeah, that was terrifying. No, it just doesn't.
So you've never
Mm-mm.
had like nightmares because of a game
Oh
before?
no. No,
Oh my
video games, like
gosh,
as much
dude.
as I like joke about like, oh my god, amnesia is so scary and that kind of like, I'll say that stuff all day long, but video games, movies scare the shit out of me. I don't like watching gory movies with jump scares and all that stuff. I hate it. I cannot stand it. I don't want to watch it. I will watch like the really cheesy ones with a group of friends if we're drinking beer and hanging out, but I just don't like horror movies in general. I
Mhm.
can handle games though, because genuinely a lot of them do have interesting stories. Hence, Resident Evil, Silent Hill, that kind of thing. I wasn't ever really scared in those. It was just like that stuff was just there. I don't know. I really like, as immersed as I get in those games, I find it really easy to take myself out of not feeling like I'm actually there when it comes to the horror stuff. I've just never had that problem.
Even
Um,
when you were really young and susceptible to things that, you know, might stick with you a little bit more.
when I was really young, the games that were out were like NES and Super Nintendo, and
Right.
there's not really anything like super crazy. Like there were the closest I got was maybe like Alien Isolation, where there were just a bunch of jump scares, and that was it. I've never like been scared by a game that I can remember. I'm not saying it's never happened. Maybe it has. Maybe I was just too scared and I blocked it out, and I just don't know. But I've never like, that might just be because I primarily don't play scary games, and so like I always think of the stuff that I enjoy and the stuff that I want to play and do and everything like that, and I don't really reflect on the stuff that scares me, if that makes sense. Because it's just not really stuff I'm into.
Hmm.
Even those horror games that I play, like I said, the horror aspect isn't what intrigues me. It's not the reason I play it. I play what I mean. What did I tell you when I was playing Resident Evil 2? I was like, man, this game is so great. This stupid freaking Mr. X guy is just really annoying and he won't leave me alone. And it's not scary. It's just dumb and annoying. And I hate that aspect of it. Like, it wasn't
That's
scaring
so
me.
weird.
I was just
That's so weird.
frustrated. But I love the environment. I love the story of it. I love finding the clues and solving the puzzles and that kind of thing. So yeah, I know it's very interesting. The way I approached the topic was thinking of like horror elements in games that are like mainly um, a game that doesn't have it necessarily, that isn't like a horror game but has horror elements, stuff that, I mean, this could cross with yours because some of the stuff that I'm going to mention, I'm sure creeped people out. So like I will say with one of mine I was a little bit creeped out, and another one I was more disturbed by once I realized what it was. um so we'll get into that. Let's see. Detway says Shang Tsung in Mortal Kombat 1 when he was a little kid. Yeah, sure. You
Right.
come on.
And
You told me you played Mortal Kombat last week, dude. Come on. Let's go.
so like I
Just
think
kidding.
I'm reading these comments here. Detway, Winani, and Carwell, they all are pointing out things that I think I was thinking about within the when I came up with
Yeah,
my list. Like Winani says Subnautica scared me on a very real level. That's so true. And you'll see a game on my list that's similar to that one, and I'll explain why.
that's understandable. Um,
Yeah.
you play horror games with the brightness up and the sound off. Uh, brightness. I mean, I play with the lights on. I don't play with the sound off though. I have it low, and if I'm like not doing anything, I will typically like listen to a podcast or something while I'm playing it and solving puzzles or something. Yeah, because I just
No,
don't.
you're not playing it right then. You're doing it
But
wrong.
I don't care for horror. I just don't like it. I don't want that. So that's
Yeah.
that's why I want to play the games for the reasons I want to play them, not for the reasons that people are like, oh, you have to get the shit scared out of you. It's like, what?
So
Why? I don't want that.
is immersion important to you? Like wanting to feel like you're part of that world?
Uh, to a certain extent, yes, but I don't want to like force myself to be scared. That's not the
Mm-hmm.
point of it. I don't
Well,
find
and I
being
don't.
scared fun.
And the thing is like I'm not forcing myself to be scared with any one of these. They just hit me on a psychological level
Sure,
unintentionally. And
right,
the
but
thing
I'm
is
talking
like,
about horror games. You're not talking about horror games right now. You're just talking about events in games that
well,
were
even
horrific
with
to you.
horror games, well, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. But also horror games, like I don't play a horror game with the expectation of getting scared. I play it because I want to experience this world that they've created, this
Yeah,
scary environment and stuff. and it immerses me on a level that that I just really gravitate to. And I think one of the biggest problems that I have now as an older adult, like that sense of immersion is harder and harder for me to attain. Whereas when I was younger, every game I played, I would connect with on some certain level of immersion. And I think that's why video games as a whole is one of my favorite mediums, right? Like over movies. Like I feel like when I have that controller in my hand, I feel like I'm in that world. I am part of that world. And so yeah, like that is part of the reasons why I've experienced these games and why they stick with me. And I think that's why I have a pretty extensive list of games too that affect me and on some level, some for similar reasons, some for other reasons. But
But it's like, I mean, that's what I mean though, is like I don't, those are aspects of those games that I don't, it's, it's like with you, like you don't finish a lot of games because you just lose interest and don't want, like, you want to play something else gets on your mind, you just want to like go do something else, but you still feel like you got your time with it, you got your money's worth, you were able to play and have some fun with some of those games even though you didn't necessarily finish the main story. That's kind of how I look at it, is like, yeah, this game has some horror elements, or this is a horror game, but that's not why I'm playing it. I'm playing it because the world intrigues me. I'm not looking to get scared. I'm looking to just learn more about these characters, these environments, these puzzles, that kind of thing. I am absolutely fascinated by the Resident Evil series. I think it is just so cool. I don't care if it scares me or not. It does not, like, that doesn't play into my mind one way or the other. As much like, like blowback as I give people, I'm like, that's too scary, I don't want to play it. More often than not, it's just because A, I just have no interest, or B, it's I haven't gotten there yet because I'm still working on Resident Evil 4. So it's, I just don't, horror games are not for me. I just don't have any interest in it. It's just not my thing. And right. But I still get my enjoyment out of playing horror games, but not because they're horror games, if that makes sense. So Cameron says Super Metroid in the dark as a kid, the isolation messed with me. I can see that. That game, especially with the music in that game.
That's a great comment to get us kicked off, because the first game on my list is Metroid, not Super Metroid, but Metroid on the NES.
Yeah.
For the same reasons that he just mentioned, like that atmosphere, that music, the dun dun, like it wasn't really music, it was just sounds in this already isolated environment. Like I felt alone in this dark spaceship with unknown areas that I'm exploring, and that music did so much to like help that feeling for me. That's like one of the earliest memories that I have of a game really radiating with me on a like a kind of a frightening level. I never really thought of it as being scary, but definitely unsettling.
That's fair. How many games do you have total, by the way?
3, 4, 5, 6, 10.
10. Okay, so why don't you go 2 at a time and I'll go 1 at a time.
That works. The next one I have is Doom. Now, Doom may have been made to be scary. I don't know. I'm kind of up in the air on that one. I was a little bit young when that game came out.
Yeah, I don't. I think it depends on who you ask.
Yeah.
I've never felt that it was a horror game. I always thought it was like a you're a badass and you're killing demons action game.
Yeah, action. I always thought of it more like later on. I thought of it more of as an action game, but I remember my first experience with it. I was again pretty young, and I was over at a family friend's house, and they were playing it on their PC. It was brand new, and they were excited about it and showing it off. And I remember my dad going up there and looking at it and being pretty blown away. And I was still young. And my dad, here's another thing you got to remember. My parents did a really good job of sheltering me from scary things. So up until that point, I had never seen anything like that. And I went and watched him play this game a little bit. And it absolutely terrified me. The fact that he's killing these demons, the demons were scary looking. The big zombie guys with the guns were terrifying to me for some reason. I don't know. Zombies have always been the thing that I've been scared of. Hence why I like Resident Evil so much, I think. But the first person view also, it puts you in the perspective in the eyes of that. You are the person. It was like another layer of immersion that I've never seen before. And it just absolutely terrified me. I remember I didn't ever play that game until many years later, but
Yep.
it's stuck with me. It stuck with me real hard, man. Like I thought about that game a lot after I saw it.
Cool. Heck yeah. Now Doom is a good one. I remember playing it as a kid as well. It was one of those shareware discs that we had for PC, where they just came with like 80 games or something like that, and you just have like a lot of them were demos. Some of them had the full game. In this case, for Doom, it had the full game. And I was never really scared by the game, but I definitely remember like the goriness, and even with those pixelated graphics of the time, like back then it was just like, oh my god, like I just split his head open, like it was gross, and it
Yeah.
was just really really like impressive to see that done. Yeah. So yes, Detway says Doom is good. It is good. It is very good. I need to play the new one at some point.
It's good as well.
I hear that. It's too scary though. I don't know that I can handle it. No, I'm just kidding. So like I said, I have 4 games, and you'll see through mine. Mine is more of a like not necessarily scary, but more creepy, like make your skin crawl kind of thing. And this stuff like did genuinely in some cases creep me out a bit. Um, First one that I'm going to do is a total cop out and pretty easy, and that is the Witcher series. The Witcher series is not a horror series, but if you were to explain it to somebody, they would probably think that it's along those lines. But it's definitely more just dark fantasy, because there's so much politics and fantasy races and all this stuff. But Brian, if you're still here, I think you can agree with me. When they introduced the witches in The Witcher 3,
Yeah.
that like
In
especially
the
with the
swamp.
music that played, yes,
Yeah.
with the music that played with it, that was creepy as hell. And it was just like you kind of like yeah, the music exactly. Yeah, still to this day like gives me the heebie jeebies a little bit. But it was so cool and so
Yeah.
well done. That's one of those things where like I wasn't scared, but I was definitely appreciating the creepiness and the elements that they had in there to kind of like creep people out a little bit. Um, I will take that over like just cheesy jump scares and needless gore, uh, any day of the
Oh, I
week.
agree.
That's the kind of
I
stuff I
agree.
like. So yeah.
100%.
And then obviously the whole world is just so damn impressive and wonderful, and it's got such beautiful areas contrasted by such ugly, like just again creepy areas like the swamp. And yeah, like Brian said, the music, man, oh god, the music with the witches was just, ooh, yeah, it's just so creepy. Just so
That
creepy.
game, I think that's a great choice. The atmosphere that game creates in general is just creepy. Um, it's like you said, that dark fantasy. That's I don't think that's ever been really explored very well, and I think Witcher does it perfectly. The one that always stuck with me on that game was the baby that came back to life, and I forget what they
The
called it.
the Bloody Baron quest line.
Yes. Oh my gosh, man. That
That's the
that
first
to
like
me
real
was
memorable quest line in that game, and it was really like, I mean, it was just, there's so many jaw dropping moments in that game. I
yeah.
mean, I still say to this day, it is the best video game that I have ever played, like
It's
hands down.
so unique and creative. Like the
Yep.
things that they come up with. That's the driving force for me to keep playing that game is wanting to know what kind of weird creative thing are they going to throw at me next because I love
Yep.
it. Yeah, that Bloody Baron uh, mission was super cool.
Yep. Good stuff. All right, hit me with two.
So you'll
I'm
notice
gonna
with
replay it.
a lot of these games on my list are from the PS1 era. So and the reason for that is I after the NES I kind of skipped the generation and I've made that known
You've
before.
talked
Like
about
I
it before.
didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I got the PS1, it was kind of a new experience for me when it comes to gaming with the 3D gaming. It was again like I was saying about Doom, that new layer of immersion that I'd never experienced before. Um, so whenever I got into that, a lot of these games hit with me on that psychological level, and I'll explain some of those. But actually, I missed one that came before PS1, so I'll say that one first. Street Fighter 2, surprisingly enough. Um, I'll explain. When I was when that game came out in arcades, my brother was in Taekwondo, and there was a little corner store gas station right next door to his Taekwondo studio.
Yep.
And while I was waiting, it was always at night. It was always dark when we went there, and I would walk over to that gas station, and they had Street Fighter 2 in there. And I never had any quarters to play it, but I would watch it over and over and over again. And the the fighting was realistic on a level that I'd never seen before. The characters obviously weren't real; they're cartoony characters, but the violence was something that was new to me. The like Dulcine when he lights somebody on fire, that seeing this guy burning is stuck with me. Like mental images stuck with me on that one. And it was just the pure like brutality, violence part of it that was scary to me.
Sure.
And I know that sounds odd to say, but like I was saying before, having not been exposed to things like that at an early age, whenever
and at that age you're way more impressionable, so it makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, odd choice there, but you'll see some other odd ones in here. The next one I have is a game called Loaded on the PS1. Have you heard of this one?
Not.
Loaded I want to say it was a launch title on the PS1, and it was an over the head shooter, not unlike Vampire Survivors that we were just talking about earlier, where it's kind of a bullet hell type of game where you walk around and you're shooting a bunch of prisoners, and you're in a prison. The first level is you're in a prison and you're shooting all these prisoners, and the noises that they make, the music that goes along with it, the atmosphere, all the blood. It was a very bloody game that I've never seen that much blood in a game before. So it was like all these things added up to be something that was just terrifying to me. And I never owned the game. It was just a demo that I had. I had a demo disc that came with my PlayStation, and I would play that demo, that same level over and over and over again, just because I was just so fascinated with that world. But yeah, if you've never looked it up, I would suggest it's to me, it's a hidden gem on the PS1. Not a lot of people know about it or have heard about it. And there was even a sequel called Reloaded. I don't think Reloaded is as good or as creepy as the first one, but it's still the same type of gameplay. It's cool. Check it out. Really creative.
Says he also likes Loaded, and then had a great cover as well.
It did. Yeah, it did. I agree with that.
Cool.
The creativity of the characters in that game, I think, really stood out with me. And you'll see that on the cover of the game. One of the main characters is standing with a gun, pointing a gun at the front, and it's cool. Anyway, what's yours?
Cool. Next one is, I'm gonna save the two that I like the best, that like genuinely creep me out a little bit. Well, Witcher did at the witches part, but this one is a little bit pretty tame for the most part, but I found it to be fascinating that it's in there, and that is the Shinra Mansion section in Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, dude, that's a good one.
It's not scary or anything like that, but you're in this world that is a cyberpunk fantasy-ish kind of thing, and then all of a sudden you're in just this creepy mansion where you're walking around and there's some ghosts in there that you end up fighting, and then you have the music, and then you get to the basement and there's a vampire in a coffin, and it's just like, it seems so random, like when you think about it at face value, but in terms of the game, it's kind of like I couldn't picture that game without it now, because it's so ingrained. Like Vincent is such a, even as an optional character, he's so integral to the Final Fantasy VII mythos, as it were. And I always found that to be such a fascinating thing, that they could mix that so well with everything else, all the other environments and everything else in that game. It's really, really cool. So yeah.
I agree with you. Like, there was a lot of unsettling moments in that game for me, little darker moments that I hadn't seen before. The one that stick out to me, the first one, was the Honeybee Inn. That whole area, that whole town, I can't remember the name of the town now, but all the way up until
the Honeybee Inn, that was at Wall Market.
Wall Market, and then all the way up until you confront the boss. And all that whole section of the game I thought was just super creepy and unsettling and just cool.
They did kind of like, there's another scene that's in the original that they changed for the remake, which had a lot of people kind of pissed off. And that is the introduction of Sephiroth. So the introduction of Sephiroth in the remake, if you've played FF7 remake, is like, he's pretty much just there from the beginning, and he's the bad guy, and you know who he is, and you get to know him throughout the thing. In the original, you just hear about him the whole time. And I didn't even think about this until just now, but there is actually a whole scene where you first see the aftermath of like something in his wake. And that is when you wake up in the prison cells in the Shinra mansion. And all you see is just a massive trail of blood. And you follow the whole thing up the stairs and all the way to the President Shinra's office with a giant sword sticking in his back. And it's just like, holy crap, what, this guy's brutal. What the hell? And they took that whole thing out and changed it for the remake. And that was so disappointing in that regard. I'm not saying, remake's good and everything like that, but it was just so they could have just done so much better with that, because that original one was an eye-opener to even see, when you like see what you can do. Yeah,
that scene with the snake, the giant snake that he killed.
Man,
you're right, that was my biggest complaint about the remake, is they did Sephiroth wrong. They did not make him, the build up was the best.
They even
part.
put the fire scene early on in the game.
Yeah, man.
Like, what are you?
They messed it
doing?
up.
But I'm not gonna complain about FF7 remake. That's not what this is about. But yes. So FF7 does have some creepy moments, and it's just so well done. I love that game. There's no secret. So yeah, that's another one for me.
All right.
Me too.
So my next one is Tomb Raider, the original Tomb Raider on PS1. Yeah. That game, I don't think it was ever intended to be scary. Yeah, it had some scary moments in it, but it wasn't intended to be a scary game. And I think
those dinosaurs were pretty good jump scares. Like,
they were. That got me pretty good. The thing that got me with that game, though, is again that similar to Metroid, that isolated feeling you get.
Sure.
Lara Croft is exploring these caves by herself and it's dark and gloomy, and you've got everything wanting to kill you. You've got like mummies and dinosaurs and water that you have to swim into, and all these puzzles and ancient artifacts and ancient civilizations under caves and stuff. Everything about that game was just so creepy to me, and I don't think they've been able to nail that layer of creepiness since then, at least not for me. I think that game did a really good job of making me as the player feel like I'm isolated and a little bit creeped out.
Cool.
That was a great one. The next one is Twisted Metal. Twisted Metal is, so what got me about Twisted Metal is,
which one? First one?
The first one. Yeah.
Okay.
The live action, they had live action videos for all of the characters in the game, and you would play through each character and see why they joined the Twisted Metal contest.
So hard. Oof.
I played them to death. I got to be so good at those games. I remember how hard they were.
Fantastic.
And I played that rooftop level, the last level, so many times. I remember, because I was just playing it over and over again to beat the game with every single character, because every character has a different ending. And it's whatever wish that they request from Calypso at the end of the game, and he always twists their wish in some weird way, and it was always so creepy to me.
Twisted Metal 2 is the reason I got a PlayStation.
Is it? Yeah, that's such a great one, man. The first one, I love the second game was great. I loved it, but man, the first one will always be where most of my nostalgia lies. It just, the environments, the dark atmosphere, the music, the sound effects, like that when Sweet Tooth, whenever he uses his special power, and
the dark
the
game
laugh that he does, and Spectre, and the hearse, I or not the hearse.
No, not Mr. Grimm. That's a motorcycle.
Mr. Grimm was creepy too.
I know who you're talking about. I mean, I can picture what the cars all look like, but I don't remember all their names. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just the sound effects. It all came together in such a way that just really creeped me out.
Those games are so good. They are really, really good. Cameron says that's a good one, Adrian, referring to Twisted Metal. Detway says Twisted Metal is great. Love Twisted Metal Black. Twisted Metal Black was I was so happy when they came out with that and brought the series back again. I would love to see a new one, quite frankly, because Black was great, especially with the characters and the stories in that are just like, it's pretty freaking dark there too, understandably so. But it's wonderful. And then Cameron says effing clowns, which
Yeah.
Sweet Tooth, yeah, especially in Twisted Metal Black. Good lord, he's just got the flaming head and like just the giant teeth and yeah.
Black was really good. The one that it was a good return to form because that series kind of lost itself there towards
3 was a little less in quality than than 2, and I barely remember 4.
And Small Brawl was another one. They tried to make it a little bit.
Oh, I didn't even play that.
Friendly.
Yeah,
I didn't either.
Mm-hmm. Why would you make Twisted Metal kid friendly? That's Mario Kart, basically.
Yeah, yeah. Did you play the one on PS3 when they brought it back?
Isn't that Black?
No, Black was on PS2. They made a new one on PS3 when they tried to revive the series, and it was bad. It was not good at all.
Maybe it didn't.
I did not like it. It didn't feel like they tried very hard to update it for modern times.
Sure.
And it didn't hit very well with me.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
All right. Cameron, you'll like this one. We've talked about it on the show. Earthbound. So
yeah.
The game itself is hokey, corny, cheesy, fun adventure, has a great sense of humor. And if you had asked me this like 10 years ago, I would not have even considered this to be on this list at all. It wasn't until sometime within the last decade that I heard somebody else say, and I did not realize it until I went back and looked. And now every time I beat that game, I see it. And that is the final boss fight of the game against Gigas. Do you know what I'm talking about? When you look and see what it looks like, just a funky red and black like swirly design on the screen that just keeps like multiplying and getting bigger and all that, and crazier and weirder on the screen. And at face value, especially back then, I didn't think anything of it or anything like that. Mm-hmm. Until somebody pointed out to me that when you look at it, it's a fetus in the womb.
Yeah.
And it's so dang creepy. Like I look at it, I'm like, oh, it is. Oh my God. That just, because that adds like so much to like the story and the mythos of Gigas and all that stuff, and like who he is and what the implications are. And it's just, man, if you want to go down a rabbit hole, go look up like some fan theories on why that is the way it is, and all. It's just so fascinating. But now every time I get to the end, because I still play Earthbound like maybe once a year to once every 2 years. I fired it up on my Switch a couple weeks ago actually, and in one night I played all the way through Tucson because I was just so into it. I really enjoyed it.
Nice.
I love that game so much. But that ending fight, just the visuals alone are creepy as hell. If you catch it and you see what you're looking at and it hits you. So yeah, that's another one for me.
That's a great choice. I would argue that the entire game has a creepy feeling to it. Just all the way through.
3 has the zombies and stuff like that.
The zombies, the blue guys, the nightmare, or not the nightmare, the town, the neon town, I thought was a little bit, it's just things are so uncanny in that game that it sets off a creepy vibe with me. And having never played it up until just a few years ago when we did it for the show, that game resonated with me on a level that I never thought would be possible for a game like that. As old as it is, it hit me on another level. And that uncanniness about it, I can't explain it. It just hits. It hits certain notes that very few other games can hit, and it's a great game.
Yeah. Cameron says Toby Fox Earthbound Halloween hack. I'm assuming that's a song that's like a music for the game, like a remix or something. Let's check it out. Interesting. Too.
Let me see. Okay, so the next one I'm gonna do is
I don't think you have my last one. This one, when I realized it, I thought about it, I was like, I was pretty creeped out. So yeah, go ahead.
For me, it's and I've said this before on an earlier show. You're probably expecting it. Mario 64. The underwater level, anything underwater in that game is just creepy to me. And this is where
I remember you telling me that. Yeah.
This is where I can relate to what Brian said about Subnautica. I have a bit of a fear of underwater stuff, like the unknown, the depths of not being
like
able
if you
to
can't
know or
see the bottom and you don't know what's there.
You feel helpless. You can't run. You just
like
kind of
thalassophobia, I think is what it's called, or something.
Yeah, exactly, dude. And that's a real thing that I've always had. But to me, it's that fear that still excites me to want to explore, like scuba diving. I went scuba diving in the Bahamas when I was 18, and I freaking loved it, man. It was one of those things like face my fear type of things. I'm so fascinated with the unknown and the water and the creepiness that goes along with it that I kind of put myself in it. So
plus if something comes after you, just got to swim faster than the guy next to you. So that's all. You're
that's
fine.
Right. That's right. The underwater eel that comes out of the hole was just super creepy. It still is. Like, to be completely honest with you, when I go back and play Mario 64, that eel still creeps the hell out of me. And whenever it comes out of the hole and swimming around, it's creepy. And then the water,
but the music is so serene.
The music just adds to it, man. It does not calm me at all.
Oh man,
it makes it worse.
I love it.
I love that music though. I know that's such great music. But the sunken ship, just things that are buried, like human made things buried underwater, is also really creepy to me. So that ship being buried and having to explore that ship and stuff is just super unsettling, and I love it.
Sure. Apparently Karen says that Toby Fox Earthbound Halloween hack is apparently a remade game. So it's got to be some kind of a ROM hack or something. That's interesting. I want to play more of those because I have 2 for FF6 that I still haven't touched.
Isn't Toby Fox the guy who made Undertale? I think he is. And I think he made some ROM hacks of Earthbound before he made Undertale. So I think that might be one of his ROM hacks.
That makes sense.
Okay, so here's my next one. It's another goofy one. You're gonna laugh. MTV Music Generator. Do you know what this is? Have you heard of this before?
I absolutely. I still have songs saved on my memory card.
Oh, yeah. I think we've talked about this before, actually.
Yeah, we have. Yeah.
So
you didn't mention that it scared you though.
Well, I have good reason. That game, okay, so yeah, it's a PS1 game where you would make your own music using a bunch of like pre-made like tones and voiceovers and things like that. I was so enamored with that game when it came out, and I would just play it just exhaustively, trying to create my own songs and save them on my memory card. Well, during the period of time, and I only rented that game, I didn't buy it. During the period that I had that game and I absorbed myself so deeply into it, I ended up getting like sick, really, really sick. I don't even remember what was wrong. But I remember having fever dreams of this game and these little, you remember the grid and how you would lay out the different blocks for the sounds.
I didn't play the first one. I played the second one on PS2, but it worked the same way.
Yeah, same thing. Those little blocks would lay out in my fever dreams, and just like they would lay out, and I would hear the music in my head, and then it would just fly out at me, and it's super weird, dude. I can't even explain. I think
it's adorable, quite frankly.
I had the worst nightmares, and all I could hear were the songs that I was creating and see the little bars, and they would just launch out at me and then go back, and then they would keep going, and then one would launch out of my face and go back, and I would wake up in deep sweat and feeling like awful, feeling nauseous. In fact, talking about it, thinking about it right now is making me a little bit nauseous, and that's how crazy this still affects me. I own the game today, and I can't like bring myself to play it because it seriously brings back feelings of sickness, like literal
Hey man,
sickness.
you're the one talking about facing your fears. Just treat it like the scuba diving thing. There you go.
Well, not when it actually makes me physically ill. That's a different type of thing. And I can't explain it, dude. It's like, do you know, it's the same thing like when you eat something when you're sick and then you can't eat it again after a while,
Yeah,
you know,
I know what you
especially
mean.
if you,
Yeah.
it's that same thing. But I think I absorbed myself so deeply into that game at that time that it became that piece of food
It's
that reminds
subconscious
me
at
of
this
being
point.
sick.
Yeah.
It's so weird. And it still
That's
affects me
crazy.
today. In fact, I need to drink some water because I'm feeling nauseous right now. Go ahead.
That's fair. Okay. Last one that I have, and I still remember the moment that it happened, and that is Halo.
Yeah, I
So
can see that.
here's how it went down. Because when Halo first came out, I played a little bit of multiplayer, and that was about it. I didn't play any of the single player. I didn't. Brian already knows where I'm going. Uh, I didn't like. There was nothing really like fascinating to me other than I had heard it was super popular and that everybody played it. So I found it for like $5 on PC, and I tried playing it when it first came out on PC. And it was like I was just like, yeah, this is fine. I wasn't super crazy about the combat and whatnot. Years later, the Master Chief Collection comes out, and my friend Brandon is a really, really big fan of Halo. Loves especially the earlier games. Halo 3 is his favorite by far. I don't know anybody who knows as much about like especially that game than him. Um, and so he agreed because I was like, I really want to play through the story, but I would love to play co-op with somebody if you're down. He was like, oh yeah, totally, because it had just come out. We were super excited. Unfortunately, back then there were a lot of connection issues, and I don't know if they've ironed those out still to this day because I know for a while they lasted. But either way, so we had our Xbox Ones, and we fired up Halo 1 and we start playing through it, and it's exactly what I'm expecting. It's just there's aliens, you're shooting them, there's ships, and you're running around and you're just going from level to level and whatnot. And then we get to this level where everything is quiet and there's some text or some dialogue going on and stuff. And Brandon, I still can hear it in my head. Over my mic, I just hear him go, well, here goes the flood. And I'm like, what? What does that even mean? I was like, are we about to get hit with a bunch of water or something like that? And all of a sudden, you just see little creepy, crawly things skittering across the floor, just thousands of them running. And I'm like, what is going on? It's not what I expected. And so, we're going crazy. And it was just so creepy. And like, I remember that moment so vividly because it was just so unexpected. I thought it was really cool. Like, because I was like, that's creepy as hell. Those little dudes and stuff like that. And so that will always stick with me is the reveal of the flood in Halo, and that was many years later, Master Chief Collection, that I even got to that point. But yeah, that still to this day sticks with me, and it's honestly a really good memory that I have too, because we played it on the hardest difficulty, we played it all the way through and rocked it. Tried to go through Halo 2, but the connection issues were so bad we kept getting disconnected, and it was not good, and I guess those issues had been there for a long time, even with the original games, unfortunately. So we couldn't play it co-op. So yeah, I ended up playing those like just solo all the way through and stuff. But yeah, I had a really good time playing that on hardest difficulty originally.
That game definitely has some creepy moments, especially when the flood are involved.
Yeah.
And then whenever they
I
take
was
over,
completely out of left field for me. I did not.
yeah,
The Covenant was all I knew. That was it.
yeah.
And so when he like in my headset, I just hear, "Here we go, the flood." I'm like, "Huh?" And you just see the little skittering things, and I'm like, "Oh, gross." Yeah, it was crazy.
Or when the Covenant is overtaken by the flood and they basically become little zombies.
Yep.
Yeah, that's shit. Yeah, that's crazy. My next game is actually really closely related to that, I feel. And that's Half-Life 2. It has the same type of thing, those little aliens that take over bodies, and you're shooting these what are they? Inhabited bodies. What's the word I'm looking for? Like
hosts,
possessed,
like
hosts.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. That game. So I didn't play the Half-Life series until the Orange Box came out, and when that came out, I played through the entire the whole series, and man, I regretted after playing that I didn't experience it originally when it came out. Those games were super creepy, man. Like everything about them were just, again, that isolated feeling, the noises, the sound effects, the main soldiers that you fight against, they have these weird like sounds that they make. They're almost kind of clicky. Anyway,
sure, you're not
I can't
thinking of
remember.
The Last of Us.
No. But yeah, that it had, again, that uncanny kind of feeling. And I think things that are uncanny really stick with me as something that's scary. It's so close to reality that it's almost feels like
unsettling.
Reality to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, Half-Life 2. And my last game that I have here is actually Demon Souls. Demon Souls, and I would argue the Soul series in general. I don't they're kind of like what you're saying about The Witcher. It's this dark fantasy. But it's set in a very, very dark, I wouldn't want to live here type of world. And I remember my first experience with Demon Souls was just super unsettling, and I think that's part of the reason why that series has stuck with me so hard, even to today. And I just love playing through those games. Is the world that they create, the unsettling world that they create, on top of the constant fear of what's around the corner. Anything can kill me, that constant tension that those games give you, especially Demon Souls. Playing that for the first time, being my first introduction to that style of game, stuck with me quite a bit. And it made me keep wanting to go back and keep playing it, even though it was hard. It's like, I need to get through this. I need to see what's next. So, but yeah, that's my list.
There you go. There you have it.
That was a fun discussion, man. I know that you said you had a hard time coming up with the games, but I think you came up with a really, really good list of, those are all great decisions.
Well, yeah, that's kind of why I kind of backed off, like, originally when we talked about doing it, because I was like, you're the horror guy, you're going to know a lot more about all this stuff than I am. So I will kind of just let you guide where you want it to be, and then I'll try to give my input in any way I can. But yeah, I mean, horror isn't really my thing in any medium whatsoever. Yeah, so it's not my thing.
Unsettled, is that a thing that, you mentioned those games, but are there any other types of experiences like that unsettle you to a point that it's almost kind of scary?
Yeah, I mean, the Witcher, like with the witches in the swamp, that's like the 90th time I've said that so far, but that really was like pretty unsettling, especially with that music. For the most part, like and the same thing with Earthbound, seeing Gigas, like, knowing
Earthbound
what it is now, that's unsettling.
Great choice. Yeah.
And then the flood, just because of the way I felt when it happened, I was just kind of like, yeah, like, it was just creepy, because creepy crawlies, I'm not a fan. JJ's true horror game was the day he played Stanley Parable. That I should have put down, because good Lord, that game, thinking about it, makes me terrified, because it's a horrible, horrible experience. You've heard of horror games. This is a horrible game. It's terrible. It's bad. I hate it. I never want to play it again. Garbage.
I've never played
it. It's all Brian's fault. Save yourself. I
heard so many things about how good that game is, though. That's crazy.
It is. The narration and writing are phenomenal.
Isn't it just one of? Do you even actually do anything in that game, or is it just like you walk through and they tell the story around you?
If you ever plan on playing it, I'm not going to say anything about it. I'm just
Okay.
going to tell you that the writing and the narration are fantastic. Because to tell you anything, whether it be the truth or a lie, Brian, uh, would probably ruin the experience, which is what happened to me. Um, and I honestly, I give him crap because we always say that he ruined it. It's his fault. He ruined it for me. It's really not the case. I probably more than likely wouldn't have liked it either way. But yeah, I don't want to rob anybody of an experience that they might enjoy because
Okay.
all three of us played it at the same time, myself, Brian, and Mark. We actually we had this day where we did like a little mini LAN party where we picked 3 games and we picked To the Moon, Dear Esther, and Stanley Parable. And we each started with a different game. We had our 3 computers next to each other. And we were all over at my place. And one of us started with one game, the other one started with another, and the third one started with the other game. And then we basically played through all 3 games, start to finish. And then on the next episode of the Frozen North, we talked about it and we did it all together that day. And it was just really fun to compare notes and talk about it and that kind of thing. And Dear Esther, that was the name of it, Brian. That was that honestly, that was a creepy game. There nothing happens in it, but just the atmosphere was kind of creepy. I kept thinking something was going to jump out at me, but it was literally just you're walking and there's narration going on. Um, but as far as Stanley Parable goes, you really have to experience it for yourself. It is it's very unique. And both Mark and Brian really enjoyed it. And I think for the most part, people do like it. I just, God, I can't say anything about why I didn't like it or anything like that because it would ruin it. And I don't want to do that for anybody who is curious. Because there is stuff that can be to like there. Yeah, To the Moon though was an excellent game. It's very good. That was the longest of the 3, but that's a fantastic game. It probably took about 3-4 hours to beat, and it made me tear up a little bit because it was pretty emotional towards the end. But it's very very good. So yeah, but Stanley Parable is something worth checking out if you can get it for like $2-3 on a Steam sale or something like that. Give it a shot, but don't look anything up beforehand. Just jump into it blind. Because it's something you have to experience for yourself. Otherwise, it's yeah. I can't say anything without ruining it. So it's really
I
hard for me
want
to
to check
like,
it out now.
you
Yeah.
know.
I am curious. Like I hadn't heard much about that game. I just hear, oh, it's so good. It's so good. Like, oh,
It might
okay.
be perfect for you, quite frankly. The way you
Really?
play games, it might be perfect for you. Yeah.
Is
And
it
you'll see
short?
what I mean when you play it. I can't answer that. And I know when I say that, Brian is cracking up. He's laughing so hard right now. But I cannot answer that.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to play it. You have to
All right.
experience it.
I'll pick
Yeah.
it up then.
So yeah. Man, that's all I get. Yeah, he says I'm laughing so hard. Uh jeez. Um so next episode it'll be right after the episode will get released right after we get back from there's a remake of Stanley Parable. Why would anybody do that? Oh god, terrible. The Stanley Terrible, that's what it should be called. Um it'll be next episode will come out when we get back from Retropalooza, so we're probably going to make it focused on that. Um so it's yeah, we're going to be there in what, less than a month, because the
Yeah.
weekend of the 22nd of October. So
Yeah.
we haven't
Just a
been
few
there the
weeks
last
away.
2 years. So wait, you play it on your what, Brian? Did I read that right?
On my Steam Deck, on my little Steam
That's
Deck.
that's what it says. Okay. Um yeah. But yeah, so I'm super excited. Do you have anything you're wanting to buy? Like anything you've got
No.
your eye
So
on?
my budget is not going to allow me to buy much. I haven't. I've
Ooh.
been trying to come up with funds to be able to buy something. I don't know. Like I might be super strapped for cash whenever we get there. So I'm just going more for the experience than anything at this point. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll have some money to buy something, but I don't know. I don't have any goals in mind yet. I've been thinking about it though. I've been thinking about it. Like if I were to go there and I do happen to get some cash for the trip, what would I want to get? And I think I want to go after upgrading some of my more favorable titles to complete in box instead of having
Oof.
just card only. Yeah. Yeah. Lofty goals, but that's kind of what I'm after. And I'm also like thinking like I want to find some oddities that are related to specific games that mean a lot to me.
I've thought about like maybe picking up some weird variant on something. Like there was, I think it was the first year we went. It was when I got Sweet Home on NES. That
Yeah.
somebody had like ripped and put on a cartridge and just repro it there. But the same guy was selling. I don't know if you remember this, but he was selling um, a ROM hack of Mario Kart 64, but all the characters were Dragon Ball Z characters in the
Oh
game, and I
wow.
thought that was
I
so
don't remember
neat.
that.
The only thing is, he wanted like $60 for it, and I was like, you better be
Yeah.
throwing in like a box and a manual if you're going to be doing that.
Yeah.
Like it's just, so I didn't pick it up then, but man, if there's a really fun ROM hack, because I can't think of anything like specific off the top of my head that I
That's
really want or that I'm looking for. Other than like Wii U games that I don't have. That's
right.
probably what I'm gonna look for. So, and 4 more Nintendo powers. That's all I need. So
Oh, you
close.
might find those there. I think you and I are in the same boat here. Like, I don't, there's nothing really specifically that I'm after at this point in my collection. I've got most everything that I really wanted to get. So I'm like, well, what do I do from here? Well, maybe I can upgrade some of the things that I already have,
Yeah.
or just find
And
something cool that I didn't know existed. You
let's
know?
be real. We're just going so we can experience whatever
Right.
new restaurants Amy
Exactly.
picks out for us. So
That's right. That's what I'm saying. Like, I won't have money to spend because I think
she's
I
like
would
10 for
rather,
10. So yeah.
yeah, I think I would rather spend my money on getting something to eat somewhere cool that we haven't been to
Yeah.
or something. Like, I don't know. I'm happy with my collection. It's more about let's just go have some fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. We got anything else?
I'm good. No, I think we covered it, man. That was fun.
All right. Chat, thanks for hanging out. I wanted to kind of just throw this out there. I'm thinking like if you're in our God, I'm not even gonna read that. Um the the I've got I'm getting close to finishing my list for 2022 of 20 games for the year. Which means I've already been like motoring in my mind about next year. I love putting together the list. It's so hard for me because I have to like I usually like pick like 50 games and have to like narrow that down, which is always a nightmare. But I am thinking if you're in our Discord, so this goes for people who aren't necessarily in chat right now as well, but if you're in our Discord, I'm thinking I might let like because I get people all the time like sending me messages saying like you need to play this, you need to play this, you need to play this, and I'm always like oh, eventually get to it. I'm thinking I might let people in our Discord pick games that I play, not
Well,
all
that's a good
20,
idea.
but like just be like, all right, you get one, you get one, you get one, you get that kind of thing, um, and kind of fill out the list that way because I do have a hard time playing it, and like Lamont picked two for me last year, and that honestly was like such a load off my mind because I was like, oh, it's two that I don't have to worry about because they're on the list regardless. I can just put them on there and be done. Now I only need 18, so it was nice, kind of like helped me out a little bit. So I might do that for this one. So if you're not in our Discord, come hang out. Some great people in there. We love talking to you guys and whatnot. So we like hearing feedback and talking to everybody. And same thing on the YouTube channel. I know I've been terrible about uploading videos and stuff, and I just real life has been um, real life has been real life recently. So we'll leave it at that. But uh, know that I do have some ideas for videos coming up soon, including a one that I really want to make. And it's like includes it'll be like in the format of my um reviews that I do where I write some really long thing and then kind of read it with gameplay footage over the top. And I've got a really good idea that I would love to write something up. I just haven't started it yet.
Heck
Um,
yeah.
I got some in mind already, dude. I would love to recommendo some games. Can we AVGN you and pick an awful one you have to play through? uh, it has to be beatable. Like it has to be like, or like, man, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Like this is just me throwing out some ideas. I haven't decided fully yet because I don't want to like come back here and people like start throwing out like ridiculously hard stuff where I'm just like, there's no way I'm going to beat that ever at all. Like, I just no. But we'll see. I welcome some of the input, and we'll talk about it at a later date. But yeah, Adrian, I think you should put together a list of games you want to finish, even if, because I know you don't typically like play through them all, but like even if you did like 5 games by the end of the year, I think that's a realistic goal for you, and I think you'll feel accomplished. I think you should do it. So
yeah. I tend to live my backlog vicariously through you, so that's been my experience with it. Yeah, I can do that. Gosh, I do have, that would be hard. I could see where you're talking about, like having to actually think about it and come up with a list would be really tough. Yeah, and there
you really
are
have
definitely
to you have to get to a point where in the back of your head you're like, well, I'll just put that on next year's list. Just do it that way. That's all you really can do.
There are definitely some games in my backlog that I would love to finish over others. So, I mean, yeah, I think I could do that.
Chat's throwing shade at you, by the way. I don't know if you noticed that.
I didn't.
Brian says, let's do one game for Adrian. And Detway says, list would be empty. And Cameron says, Adrian the completionist. Oh, man.
That's right.
I have said this before, though. Like, I sometimes, as much as Adrian does not finish games, I sometimes get jealous of the way he plays, because doing what he does proves that he plays these games for fun and gets his enjoyment out of it. Whereas I know, and I know some of you guys feel the same way. You guys like, finish games once you start them. You get to a point in quite a few and we're like, all right, let's wrap this up. Let's finish it. He's just having a good time. And I think there's something to be said about that. Like, absolutely. So,
I mean,
yeah.
And I beat a game since the last show. I beat Resident Evil. I mean, yeah, I beat it before, but I beat it again.
But you hadn't beaten Leon's storyline, right? You only beat Claire's last time, right?
True. And they are pretty different. So yeah.
Cool.
I could come up with a list. The thing is, if I have a goal, I will accomplish said goal. The thing is I don't ever set goals for myself. So maybe this is the thing I need.
Hang on, though. Did you finish Resident Evil 2 Remake on the same console that you beat it the first time? Oh, so you didn't get the real ending, and you didn't do like the real final boss fight and all that stuff. Ending. There's an additional boss fight that you have to do on the second playthrough.
Well, I guess I'm gonna have to play through it again. Play through Claire's story. Yeah. Okay. I didn't know that. How are you schooling me on Resident Evil stuff, man?
Because I did it. I'm a pro on 1 through 2. So 0 through 2, because I finished 0 as well. I finished 3 also. Jeez, yeah, 0 through 3. Yeah, I'm pro, man. Come on, I got this.
That's funny.
I do want to play through both base stories to get the extended ending. Yeah.
I have no issues
doing that. He didn't finish Radical Dreamers, which I completely understand.
And I won't finish Radical Dreamers either.
It's not worth playing through at all.
I have no desire to go back to it. I wanted to, before we end the show here, I wanted to give a quick shout out to Platinum Bro Lewis. He's been streaming a lot lately. And because he's in a different time zone, he streams during the time that I'm working, so I can put his stream on while I'm working. Dude does a great job with his streams. I mean, they're entertaining, and the chat gets worked up, and he's really, really fun to listen to. So I highly recommend you guys go check him out on his streams. He streams like Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays, I want to say.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
And it just happens to work out that he is like one of the nicest guys in the world.
He is.
Which always helps. So
yeah.
Cool.
Definitely makes me want to support him. He's a great guy.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, this is the Pixel Perspective Podcast signing off. Like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. You know the drill. This is YouTube, or go on over to our any audio listening place, and you can hear our episodes there as well. But if you want to see our faces, go over to Game Room Revival on YouTube. You'll see us there, and we'd love to chat with you. Like I said, join our Discord, get on some game talk, and just hang out with us. And we stream these on Twitch. Typically, we announce when we're going live like today we announced same day.
Same
But
day.
usually it's like 24 hours in advance or so. And I put it on Twitter too. But we announce a lot of the stuff in our Discord when we're going to do that kind of stuff. So if you want to watch us live, just hang out in there and you'll eventually see us pop up in there and say that kind of thing. So yeah, JJ, did you order that Metroid? No, I did not. I didn't. I'm probably not going to get it. As much as I like enjoy the Metroid games, I'm not like a super fan, so I don't necessarily need it. But that was a cool item that you sent me. So that is pretty. You'll have to show it to me when you finally get it. So yeah, Adrian, you got anything else?
No, I'm good.
For the 70th time that I've asked that now. Well, in that case, what should they do, sir?
Definitely keep on gaming.